let some other folks join us today. But we are glad you're here. It's hard to believe it's the November session with this beautiful weather we're having outside. Feel free to use the chat function if you're experiencing any difficulties or have any questions. My colleague Jen is here to assist us. We're also, we always love to hear where people are joining us from, so feel free to include that in the chat. And my name is Shelly Maxwell, so we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll introduce myself and the format for these R&R sessions in case this is your first time. My name is Shelly Maxwell, and I'm a clinical social worker, an EAP counselor with the Ascension, Wisconsin Employee Assistance Program. And employers contract with us to provide counseling to the employee and any direct family member in their household at no cost. And it's completely confidential. And in most areas, we provide both in-person and virtual sessions. So that's pretty much my day job with EAP is seeing individuals and couples for counseling. But I'm also a registered yoga instructor. I've been practicing for 25 years and teaching for 5. I teach here in Oshkosh, and so this is also one of my passions is wellness and stress management. And so my yoga practice has helped me a great deal personally, and I enjoy passing that along. So in these R&R sessions, it's for a half hour, the first Wednesday of every month, completely free. And we do use the same Zoom link and password for every session. It doesn't change. So you can always add this to your calendar. But I start off with some guided imagery, just a moment for us to transition into this space. And then we move into some grounding and breath work. And then we'll do some chair yoga or just, stretching. That's all it is. And then I typically close with some sort of reflection to help us have a moment of stillness and silence, and just time to integrate the last 30 minutes. And then we move along and meet up again next session, which will be the first Wednesday in December. So for today, I'm actually going to mix things up and have us start with a poem. If I can get the slide to advance, there we go. This was on my Facebook feed last week, and I fell in love with this. So sometimes poetry and literature is a great way. It's a different kind of imagery, right? Like using the words to resonate with us rather than the visual. And so now we're using more of the auditory, but the visual in your mind. So this poem is called Poem in Autumn, and it's authored by May Sarton. And it reads, "Now over everything, the autumn light is thrown, and every line is sharp, and every leaf is clear. Now, without density or weight, the airy sun sits in the flaming boughs, an innocent fire that shines but does not burn nor wither. The leaves, light penetrated, change their essence, take on the gold transparence of the weather, are touched by death, then by light's holy presence. So we, first touched by death, were changed in essence, as if grief grew transparent and turned to airy gold, and we were given days of special radiance, light brimmed, light shaken, And with love so filled, it seemed the heartbeat of the world was in our blood. And when we stood together, love was everywhere, and no exchange was needed. If exchange we could, the blessedness of sunlight poised on air. So I'm just going to give you a moment here to soak in those words and that the essence of the poem, and think about maybe any words or any phrases that stand out to you. So I read this Friday morning and my daughter didn't have school. So I took her and a friend up to Door County for the day. And this friend had never been to Door County. And it was interesting because everybody was like, oh, darn, they're post-peak with the fall colors. And I was like, yeah, I know, but it'll still be beautiful. And I read this poem Friday morning and posted it, reshared it on Facebook. Got a lot of comments from my friends. They're like, oh my gosh, this is just what I needed to hear today. And then I was driving up and the sun was just, it's at that beautiful angle in the sky where even my own road, the tree next door, was just on fire. It was like I was living in this poem all day, driving up to Door County. The upper trees had maybe lost some of their leaves, but the understory was just glowing. And I loved how it just gave me that mindfulness moment throughout the day. And of course, I've got two 14-year-olds in the back seat, noses in their phones. I don't know how many times I said, girls, look up, look at this, look at this. Look at the leaves, look at the light shining through the leaves. And I'd never before associated myself with that leaf glowing in the sunlight. And so having that new awareness or new imagery, being light brimmed and light shaken and radiance, right? Thinking of the heartbeat of the world being in my blood, I just felt so awake and connected, like we talked about last month. And I was like, oh, I just want to share this with the group for the November R&R. And so I welcome you to bring yourself into that poem and bring your experience. And maybe think about, is there a favorite tree that you have in your neighborhood or on your commute anywhere that just glows and is filled with that radiant light? And so using that guided imagery in your mind's eye, and you might even close your eyes or gaze gently between your eyelashes. And while you picture that tree or that experience, like I remember I grew up in Connecticut, and when I was 8 or 9 years old, we were walking to the downtown area of my little town, Ridgefield, and we were walking down this tree-lined path, and the maples were just completely yellow, and yellow leaves the whole way covering the path. And my parents were there, and I was with 2 other friends. They were sisters. And I remember just linked in arms with these 2 sisters, just skipping down the path, singing the Yellow Brick Road. So sometimes we can have really fun memories of these leaves and their radiance, maybe even jumping into piles of leaves as kids, or when our kids were jumping in those leaves. So go ahead and take a breath in and root yourself, feel that sense of connection with your past, with the present, and the experience of those light-filled leaves and how they in turn help us feel and experience that light-filledness, that love-filledness. Bringing awareness to your feet on the floor, feeling that rootedness. And then traveling up from the feet through the ankles and the knees, through the hips, letting the weight of the body sink a little bit deeper into your chair. Traveling up the back through the spine and letting the back rest against the back of your chair. The shoulder blades drop. Maybe the shoulders come back a little bit. You feel the sternum come forward gently without effort. And coming to your shoulders, lengthen up through the back of the neck, letting the chin come to a level resting position. And lengthen up through the crown of the head. Breathing in, letting the belly expand on the inhale. And on the exhale, gently hugging that navel center in towards the spine. Inhaling and expanding. And when you're ready to exhale, bring in that hugged navel center, hug it in, letting the breath expel out of the lungs. And when you're ready to inhale, just release the left effort and let the belly balloon. And here we can include a counted breath. So on your next inhale or exhale, wherever you're at, you can start with a 5-count breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then switching 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do 2 more breaths like that, full cycles, you counting on your own. And if you want to increase the count, go right ahead. You might choose a 6-count or 7-count breath. And as you come to the end of that second breath cycle, imagine that sunlight shining upon you and filling your body, your head with that light. This weekend, I went up north. So from Door County, we went up to the lake, and in the morning, I was meditating outside and the sun just was enveloping me. And, you know, when you close your eyes, when you're at the beach or anywhere and the sun is on you and it just fills your whole being with light, and go ahead and connect with that essence of light, feeling that transparency within yourself and that essence expanding and growing. Feel the nourishment of that light and rejuvenation. Bring awareness back into your body, maybe rubbing your palms together, creating some heat between them. Maybe wiggle your toes. You can wring your hands, rubbing them, or rub your arms, creating a sense of warmth and security. Our brain loves that. We release lots of endorphins whenever we create that sense of comfort, that warmth and security. And the endorphins in turn help us have that sense of peacefulness and wellness and contentment. Dopamine is that happiness hormone, and it comes and goes. It's not consistent, but endorphins can be consistent. We're able to release endorphins much more frequently and regularly than dopamine. So we don't always have to focus on being happy. But when we focus on having a sense of well-being and peacefulness, that's typically longer lasting. So if your eyes aren't open already, go ahead and bring your awareness back into your room. And I am going to stop sharing, and we're going to move into some of our yoga practice. So I'm going to scoot to the front of my chair, and I welcome you to do the same so that you have some more room in your seat. And if you ever hear this weird sound, this is my arm pads going back and forth. And so you might, if you hear that, I apologize. I try to keep them pushed back as much as possible. So to begin, we're going to start with some cat-cow movements. And cat-cow, your hands can be on your lap and you're sitting upright, rooting through your sits bones. And as we inhale, bringing the belly, letting it expand, we bring our heart center forward and squeeze the shoulder blades together. So we get a nice upper back stretch. The chin can come forward. We're bringing the elbows back. The arms hug into the sides of the body. And then as you exhale, hugging the navel center in, you can slide your hands to your knees, bring your shoulders forward and stretch between the shoulder blades. You can tuck the chin and bring the chin down towards the sternum and get a nice stretch through the back. And let's do that a couple of times, moving with your own breath, the inhale coming forward and the exhale moving back. And what's nice about these movements is if one feels really good to you or several, you can do these on your own. Or you can watch these recordings on our YouTube channel. But the important thing is to start synchronizing your body with your breath, your mind with your breath. Deepening the breath and let it lengthen, get longer. One more time, forward. And exhaling back. And then we're going to take our hands and clasp them and put them behind our head at the base of our skull. And we're going to do that movement, that cat-cow, expanding our elbows out. And exhale, bring the elbows together, hugging that navel center in, the chin tucks in. And again, move with your breath 3 more times. And notice the difference of the stretch in the back, even in the core, in the abdominal area, the hips. You might even notice the tailbone getting in on the action as it tilts in and out. One more time on the exhale, and then coming back to center. Let's take those palms and press them up towards the ceiling and root through the sits bones. So you might even tilt your pelvic bowl forward a little bit, or you're going to feel it level out. Reach the palms up. On an inhale, feel the abdomen with breath. And on the exhale, we're going to twist to the left. Now root through the feet and try to keep balanced weight through the hips. But you might need to press a little bit more into the right hip. You can bring your chin to the left armpit, looking past the armpit to maybe the wall behind you. Breathe deeply. On the inhale, come back to center. And on the exhale, twist to the left, rooting through the feet, keeping a sense of stability through that left sits bone. Bringing the chin to the armpit, looking past. Hugging that navel center in and lengthening up as you twist. And then bring it back to center. We're going to bring those hands back to the back of our head, and we're going to open up the side body here, bringing that elbow down towards the right. Then we're going to bring that elbow down, the left elbow. So where you're hugging the chin in, and then on the inhale, we're going to open up and gaze up towards the sky. Exhale, close it like a clamshell and open up. And then we're going to close it again and come back to center. Let's do it on the other side. So side bending over to the left, hug that navel center. Don't let those ribs come forward. Stitch the front ribs together so that there's an equal balance between the front ribs and the back ribs. And lengthen up from the right hip up through the right armpit. Hug the navel center in. On your exhale, bring the elbows towards each other. They're not going to touch. Take a clamshell. Inhale, open up. Gaze up towards the ceiling or imagine the sky. On the exhale, close. The inhale, open. One more time, closing. And then coming back to center. We're going to bring our hands back to our lap, and we're going to come into a eagle pose. And so in eagle, we bring the right leg, press the right leg over the left. And we're going to take the right arm and bring it under the left arm. Now you might stay here and press the tops of the hands together, or you might be able to bring them around and press the palms together or clasp the thumbs. And the goal with eagle is we're trying to get our elbows aligned with our shoulders and then our wrists aligned with the elbow. And you're going to get a really nice upper back stretch here. Squeeze the legs together, and you might even be able to tuck that right leg around the left. So you're in a real deep twist here. So whatever is available to you today, don't overdo it. If you're feeling any sharp pain, you've gone too far. But if you're feeling some sensation that's not painful, go ahead and breathe into it. You can stay here, or you can hug your navel center in and bend forward, bringing the knees towards, the elbows towards the thighs. Letting the chin come towards the sternum, tucking it in. 2 breaths. And then come back to center. You can release the legs, release the arms. And now we're going to switch. So now the left leg comes over, the left arm comes under. And again, we're aligning the elbows with the shoulders if that's available, the wrists with the elbows. Palms can press or tops of the hands. Now you'll notice, my left hand is lower than the right. So it's really my fingers pressing into the palm of my right hand. You might be able to tuck that left foot around the right and lengthen, hug that navel center in. You can stay here for a few breaths, or you can hug that navel center in a little bit more and fold forward. Tucking the chin, bringing breath into the back of the neck, the upper back between the upper shoulder blades, relaxing the jaw, releasing the tongue, and soften the temples. Soften the hands and the hips. And on your in-breath, go ahead and come back up. Release the legs, release the hands. You can do some shoulder rolls forward and back. And now let's come into a bound angle pose or butterfly pose. Sanskrit, it's called Baddha Konasana. So the tops of the feet come, or the bottoms of the feet come together. Okay, I have my shoes on, but if you have your shoes off, that's perfectly okay too. So the feet are going to be together and the knees are going to be open wide. Right? And that's where we get the butterfly. And we're going to, if you have the space, you can bring your hands onto your desk in front of you, and you might need to scoot your seat back a bit. You can also bring your elbows onto the desk and clasp the hands and let them rest on your skull, and you'll get a nice tricep stretch. But even if your palms or forearms are on the desk, just go ahead and bow forward. You can experiment with where the feet are, if they come in close, or if you have them out wide. And we're just going to lengthen. And here's nice if you can roll back in your chair and you can lengthen through the spine. So you can send that chair back and lengthen through the spine as you come forward, or you can round the spine if your chair is stationary. But you're going to notice some stretching through the arms, through the side body. So breathe, bring the breath into those areas, softening, releasing, and then gently come back out of the pose, come back to sitting. Find your seat, letting the back be fully supported. The feet on the ground, and I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And we're going to return back to the poem. In yoga, we return to positions sometimes at the end of the practice, ones that we did in the beginning of the practice, to notice the difference in how we feel. And I thought it would be nice to do this with the poem, to read it again and bring awareness to how you might relate to this poem differently now compared to at the beginning when you initially heard it. So feel free to close your eyes if you'd like to while I read to you, or read along with me. Now over everything the autumn light is thrown, and every line is sharp and every leaf is clear. Now without density or weight, the airy sun sits in the flaming boughs, an innocent fire that shines but does not burn nor wither. The leaves, light penetrated, change their essence, take on the gold transparence of the weather, and touched by death, then by light's holy presence. So we, first touched by death, were changed in essence, as if grief grew transparent and turned to airy gold, and we were given days of special radiance, light brimmed, light shaken, and with love so filled, it seemed the heartbeat of the world was in our blood. And when we stood together, love was everywhere, and no exchange was needed. If exchange we could, the blessedness of sunlight poised on air. So with that, we will close our session for today and for the month. The key word was radiance, and you can contact us several different ways, through our phone number, through email. And if you'd like to find previous recordings of the R&R sessions, you can find them on our YouTube channel, Ascension, Wisconsin, EAP. And this will likely be loaded sometime by next week. And we look forward to seeing you all next month. So thank you again, everyone. And I hope you enjoyed this session.